Welcome back to TMI with Teryl and Martha, and we want to make sure if you're watching us on YouTube that you like and subscribe and share it with your friends. We are so excited today, Teryl, so tell us about our guest.
So we are so very lucky to have Dr. Sten Ekberg on our show. I was introduced to you through our mutual friend, Dr. Jack Winter, who we're in the studio here. We're happy to have this suite for him to come into because of Dr. Jack Winter and his wife, Jeannie. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we are honored to have you because Dr. Ekberg has a lot to tell us about many things regarding health and wellness. And I'm going to let him drive the ship with that because he is very good at this. And we're going to promote your site as well because he is helping millions of people to find a better way to optimal health. So take it away, Sten. I'm so glad to have you here.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. I think we have definitely the common goal of wanting to inform people more about how health really works. And one of my things that the most that I teach about really is metabolic health.
Right.
Because that's where so many people have issues. But I'd love to talk about just about anything.
Okay.
And the biggest thing that I think people miss out on is holistic health. They
Right.
don't understand all the different aspects. And chiropractors for 100 years have talked about how important it is with structural health.
Right.
Because that's sort of the mechanics. But
Right.
they also really emphasize the nutritional aspects,
Right.
the biochemistry, and the emotional aspects with the stress.
Yes.
So that's kind of the triad of health here, where the chemical, structural, and emotional. And so
Right.
many people, when they want to change something, they just focus on one.
Right.
And then it's like, well, you're improving one leg of the table, but it gets
Now it's
rickety
out of
now.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the biggest problem that we have is that we've strayed so far from our origins. Like our ancestors, our DNA goes back about 250,000 years. It
Right.
really hasn't changed. So whatever lifestyle, whatever world they live in is what we are adapted for.
Well, our body doesn't know that we're in 2026 dealing with traffic, dealing with deadlines.
Oh, it knows it.
Well, yeah.
It knows it.
You can actually, we'll talk a little bit about what you've just been through because,
Yeah.
this can relate. Martha had just had a recent health scare for all of us, but she had you want to tell him what you were dealing with?
Well, first, I loved what you were saying. We were talking in the prep about, why are Americans so sick?
Yeah. Yeah.
And my husband and I, in the last 10 or 12 years, we've started traveling a lot. Okay. We always did the traveling you do with kids, and all that kind of stuff, but we've started doing a lot of traveling abroad ourselves. And in last year, we took the whole family to southern France for the 80th anniversary of the southern invasion of France. It was called Operation Anvil. And it was nice to get the whole family together, but it was also, we talked a lot about food and about wine and about things like that because, we noticed such a difference when we're in Europe eating or even in the UK eating and what we eat at home. And even though I'm not a packaged kind of person, I pretty much cook from scratch most of the time when I cook. But, just little things that we assumed. And of course, I'm of an age where a lot of my friends' children have really bad problems, either with going as far as having colon cancer or a lot of stomach problems.
There's a lot of autoimmune as well.
Autoimmune, swelling, all that kind of stuff. And so it's something I've thought about a lot because, I'm a fairly conservative person politically. I wouldn't describe myself as a tree hugger, or anything like that. But you can't deny the fact that the food is different. And that's got to be something, that's got to be a huge part of it. Because what is the thing you put in your body from the time you were born until you die is food and water.
Yeah.
And
the way I look at it is I often try to explain things to people as a body burden.
Right.
That we have
Okay.
all these
Yeah, that
different
makes-
things, that we have emotional stress, we have physical stress, we have the junk food, we have the
Right.
sugar, we have the modern wheat, we have the chemicals, pollution, and so forth. And it's not one little thing that
Right.
Is the
that,
ultimate
that
cause.
does the whole the whole
Right.
problem, but everything adds up and it becomes
Right.
the body burden. And I think
That's
in
a
the
good
US,
term, body
I-
burden.
unfortunately, I think the whole world is going the wrong way. They're eating more sugar,
Agreed.
they're having more processed food, more chemicals, more pollution. But it's like the US is one generation ahead.
In the wrong way.
In the
In the
wrong
wrong
way.
direction,
In the wrong
yeah,
way. We
yeah.
led the way. We introduced all these chemicals and all this junk food first. We have more vaccinations, more food additives, more of everything that is one little piece
Right.
in
Right.
this body burden. And I think that's why we are sicker and why we have more allergies and more issues, even with our young kids.
And what frustrates me the most is when you go and you travel, you see that it's the same companies that are making the food in Europe that largely, I mean, they're local companies, but they have the big ones that we
Right.
have here that
Yeah.
are making food here. So when they say they can't make these changes, they're lying because they're already making the foods
Yes.
that way for the European markets and the
Yes.
UK market. So
Right.
it shouldn't be that hard to shift it over. I mean, there'd be some shifting because I'm sure they
Yeah.
have different plants that make the American
Machinery.
food and
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like they got to make it up from whole cloth, and start over again. So I had, over the last 6 years, I've had 2 really big health scares. The first one was at the height of COVID. I had this thing called a parapneumonic effusion, which is basically when the strep that's in your body gets loose and attacks a part of your body. And as a result of that, I was hospitalized and it was very serious. And I recovered from that, thank God. But I was substantially more overweight than I am now. And my husband, who's a primary care physician, has always been very sweet. And he said, honey, he said, your weight didn't cause this, but it made it harder for you to recover. And that was kind of a click in my head, that I needed to be.
Aha moment.
Yeah, an aha moment, because I'm a fairly tall woman.
Right.
I can carry weight well. I didn't look as heavy as I was.
Right.
And so I was just like stuffing it anyway, not getting it done. But the changes I made back then were I got rid of sugar. I stopped drinking diet sodas because I just couldn't get my head around how something with 0 calories could be bad for you. So I drank a lot of diet sodas like a lot of us of our age group did. So I got rid of diet sodas. And then the biggest change I made, I didn't eliminate any foods other than sugar. The biggest change I made is I had breakfast, lunch, and then a very light dinner. So I went to bed a little bit hungry, not like starving or anything, but a little bit hungry. And that worked. And my daughter goes, who's very healthy, she goes, Mom, you cracked your metabolic code. That you figured out what works for you. And I've lost about 87 pounds since then and kept it off. And
Awesome.
then this February, I had it's called spasmodic myocarditis heart attack. It's also called Takotsubo syndrome, broken heart syndrome, or the colloquial things. But the good news about it is you recover completely. You have no damage to your heart, but it's a warning shot. Saying, hey, it's a stress-related kind of thing. So from there, I'm just like really changing the pattern of my life. And, I'm 66,
The
I'm almost
rhythm.
67, but I'm trying to make those changes so that I can live to be 97. It'd be good. Yeah,
And get to 97 with some quality of life.
that's right.
Yeah. That's what so many people don't get. They think that, I don't want to live that long because I'll be sick and miserable.
Right.
But
But
it's
you don't
not-
have to be.
It's not necessarily about adding more years. It's about adding health span, being
Exactly.
functional, actually having a life for those last 30 years. So many people after 50 even, like they can't do hardly any of the things that they look forward to.
Well, I've always, as a trainer, had to help convince them that, they'll say, oh, I can't pick that up. It's heavy. Why would I want to pick that up? And I'm like, so I
Yeah.
spent so much time cheerleading, trying to get them to understand it's even more important that you pick up heavy things
Yes.
when you're older. You just do it safely,
Yes.
And the older we get, our bones rely on the muscle tension and how it plays back and forth. And back to what you said earlier, to the holistic approach to health, and watching that all three chairs to the stool are taken care of at the same time. And we as a culture tend to, just like our healthcare does, it gets kind of broken into its specialties and whatnot. So we tend to focus on one thing and try to move to the next. So what have you seen in your years, and how does it relate to the metabolic health of America, and why our country, being the most wealthiest country in the world, falls in an actual category of being one of the least healthy populations? What are some of your experiences, or what do you see?
Yeah, there's so many pieces that I don't really know where to start. But
Right.
I think I talk a lot about how metabolic health,
Right.
the first thing that you need to do is to cut out the sugar,
Yeah.
because
There you go.
sugar is, whether it's table sugar or honey or high fructose corn syrup, it's glucose and fructose.
Right.
And fructose is kind of like alcohol. It creates a fatty liver, and we see fatty liver in 12-year-olds today
Oh God.
from all the soda they drink.
Yeah.
So glucose raises blood sugar and drives insulin, and fructose creates a fatty liver, both of which sort of reinforces
Right.
metabolic
Disorder.
problems and fatty liver, and leads to type 2 diabetes eventually. So that's the first thing we have to understand.
Like simple step for everybody that they
Yes.
could apply.
Yes.
Sugar.
And
Stop
what
sugar.
you said, when you cut it out, it was like the only thing that you totally stopped.
Right.
And that's the most important one, because not only does it do those two things, it is also a drug.
Yeah.
Nothing will give you cravings like sugar. It's like it
That's
creates its
true.
own dependence. But then we also want to understand what stress does.
Yeah.
And stress, I talk a lot about this. This is like the foundation. I wish
Great.
I could talk more about it, but people just don't really, it's a little too far out for most people. It's like, no, tell me about the food. Tell me about the food.
Right. Yeah.
But stress, you have the fight, flight, you have the feed, breed.
Right.
And this system is there for our survival. And if we get chased by a bear or a saber-toothed tiger, now we need that fight, flight to get out of there and survive. And that's what we're designed for. Those are supposed to be big challenges,
Scary,
huge swings,
yeah.
maximum effort, short term.
Right.
And then we get back in our cave and we
All
recover.
is well. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the body doesn't understand the difference between a bear and someone who's rude in traffic,
Right.
or an overbearing boss, or bad news, or the war overseas, or too many bills.
Yes.
So you're firing off that fight flight
Right.
just a little bit all the time. And that becomes our default state.
Yeah.
And
At a genetic level, even, isn't it? I mean,
and you have so many, you only have so many resources
right.
in the body. So if you use more resources for fight flight, you have less resources for feed breed,
Right.
which means you shut down, to a degree, you shut down your digestion, you shut down your immune system, you shut down your reproductive function,
Right.
you shut down your healing, your DNA repair, and so on. And this is the state where people exist. And now they wonder why they're infertile, and why
Well,
they can't
that's
digest
true.
food, and
So-
why they catch every cold.
So I think that's really interesting, because what
Right.
I hear from a lot of millennials that I interact with, because I'm thankfully in a business where I do deal with a lot of young people. You know what I mean? And I love that. I think it's good for me.
Yeah.
But what I hear from them is a lot of discussion about how anxious they are.
Yes.
But
a
isn't
lot
that
of
really
anxiety.
just the word they're using to describe what you just talked about? The little bursts of fight or flight may not actually be anxiety. I mean, I'm sure for some
adrenaline.
people, sure for some people it is. But I just, when I hear it from
Right.
it's like the word of the day
Oh, no.
sometimes when you're dealing, and
Yeah.
really it's not it's these little bursts of, oh, I love the analogy to traffic. I grew up in Atlanta. Okay. I grew up at a time when they first expanded, the highway coming out, and there was no traffic. I know you can't imagine Atlanta with no traffic, but there was a period in the late 80s where they opened up all these extra lanes going out of Atlanta. Where you could just, for a few years there, it was fabulous. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It was just great. Yeah. You could just get back and forth in an hour. You never make it in an hour anymore.
Yeah.
So what you said there, is it stress or anxiety? Well, to me, it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's like there are only two emotions, and we have 1,000 labels for them.
Right.
But the only two emotions is one that feels good and one that feels bad. Right?
That's true.
And,
that is very true.
But we
it's
have
that
come
simple.
so far into this chronic little stress pieces that our default is to have those feelings, and we don't even recognize them. It's our default. It's our norm.
Right.
That's the baseline.
So interesting.
So where I was going though, in addition to that, is what stress does is what happens when you get chased by that bear and you fire off or traffic, and you fire off that fight-flight system. Your body needs energy.
Right.
Your body's looking for energy. This is a crisis. We got to survive this. How do we get more energy? And you start breaking down glucose,
right?
Like glycolysis, because
right.
you don't have time to break down fat.
Yeah.
You do some of that, but it's a little too slow to cover all of it. So you start breaking down glucose, and now your body is looking for more glucose. And where do you find glucose? Well, that's why stress gives you cravings.
Oh,
right?
Your body's being driven to put more glucose in the system. It
wants more sugar because that's the fast fuel.
Right.
And
Makes
then
total sense. It's a smart body.
Our ancestors didn't have a vending machine on every corner.
Right.
Right. So for them, they didn't have, let me pick up some honey when I'm being chased by this bear.
Right.
But we have that option. So now there's so many opportunities to grab that sugar, and the stress keeps us looking for it over and over.
Yeah.
And that cortisol by itself, so when we're stressed, we also release cortisol, which
very damaging
breaks down glycogen and raises blood sugar. So that's the other component of this, like the cortisol gives us cravings on the one hand and raises blood sugar on the other. And when we raise blood sugar, we released more insulin, and now we're driving more insulin resistance just with that stress response.
Wow. It's like a cycle that begins. I got to see that firsthand. I recently lost a very beloved horse. I was very close to this horse. I happened to have my glucose monitor on because every now and then I'll wear a CGM just to watch what's going on because I am very I am a little bit insulin resistant, even with the exercise background, everything else. So I happened to take a look in the midst of this grief that I was feeling, and I started feeling bad, right? So I had tons of grief, and then I started feeling ill and swelling, and I looked at that glucose monitor, and my fasting glucose was above 125. It was like rising.
Yeah.
And all of that became very clear to me as to like how emotions drive the chemicals of our body.
Yeah.
So specifically. So I took that thing off.
Well, but you laugh at that. But I think, like, I'm sitting here with my iWatch on, okay, and we have all these things that we track things. I don't think that's that healthy. I'm to the point where I've said to my husband, you know what? I'd really like to just let's go look for a watch. I just want a plain old watch. I don't want to be like tied
worried.
to, ooh, how far am I compared to yesterday? And that creates stress.
Yeah.
I'm just like, but so there's a book
there's a balance though.
Well, there's a book that Bill Gates wrote called The Road Ahead, and he wrote it in '95 before we knew about him and Epstein. So it was a good book. Anyway, so he talked about how all communication methods start out good, and then there's a dark side to them, you know. And so like this initially, great. You can see things on here. You can keep track of your movement. You can do all these things. And oh,
Right.
that's really, you can find out how many hours you slept, you know, whatever. But then it gets to the point where, oh my God, it's
If it
tracking
becomes
everything I did. You know?
obsessive compulsive, then it becomes a different thing.
And unfortunately, I totally agree. It's very helpful. It's a great tool. But then
Right.
it comes down to the person.
How are
they
they
gonna
using it?
use this as an informative tool, or is it going to make them neurotic?
Right.
And I always recommend these things. I
Right.
promote these things as a tool. It's like,
Well,
hey,
Yes.
knowledge is power.
yes. So you get your CGM. See what happens
I
when
love
you have
having
that
mine.
stress response.
Well, you like
Get-
that sort of thing. You
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
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 Get a little glucose monitor. See what happens when you eat different things.
Yes, it's an
Just
education.
to educate yourself.
Yes, it's an education.
And I have an Oura ring. I love to see
I love those
how
Oura rings.
how it tracks.
Right.
It gives me some information.
I use the Hume.
But I don't become dependent on
Right.
it. I'm not going to freak out if I drop 10 points on a sleep score. It's like, hey, that's life.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to work on that, you know,
Yeah.
because I was a straight A student in school, and it really meant a lot to get A's. So this program gives you A's, B's, and C's relative to things. And I mean, that just makes me mad. So I stopped looking at that part of the tracking.
Yeah.
I'm just watching for the cardiovascular health. That's my biggest concern with
Yeah.
genetically high LP to little a.
Oh,
And very high cholesterol. So
Yeah.
my goal is to keep my blood flowing and my arteries healthy.
Yeah.
And it's taken me on quite the journey. I mean, she's been drug onto this journey with me because I'm bringing people in
yeah.
and we're talking about it. And I discovered, even though I was a fitness person and have worked
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
do all the things, I still was metabolically unhealthy
Yeah.
because there's things that were kind of sneaking into this whole mix
Yeah.
that I needed to get a handle on.
And
so
I think that people need to do some basic testing.
Yeah.
Like we at our blood work, we always include lipo-A. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a type of cholesterol,
important.
of LDL cholesterol that's sticky.
Right.
It's a genetic predisposition, and if you have it, then it's like you need to do a few more things. You need to be
Yes.
extra careful.
right.
And even things that look good for another person,
I
you
cannot
might
do
have
it.
to be a little bit more
Mhm.
specific. So that's where I see all these different tools
Right.
coming in where you could learn more, but then you have to not turn it into a stressor.
Right. I can't.
Because worrying about it is
Am I
is a
going to
problem
die
in
So
itself.
tomorrow?
So it's so funny after I had my follow up, and I was very lucky. I mean, I have the cath doctor said I never get to see arteries this good. I mean, I did not have
She's healthy
blockage. I did not
otherwise.
have. It was totally stress related, but it was funny. They said you got to manage your stress, and I'm like, I solve everybody else's problems. How am I going to manage my stress? I'm the person people
That's your
come to
job.
when they're stressed. You know, so I have had to really. I mean, like. I've had to really change my life
Yeah.
in the last few months because I never want to go through that again.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a few, I'm sure it was only a few seconds. It felt like a long time, but I had a few seconds before the ambulance got there that I thought, I'm not going to see my husband again.
That's
I'm not
scary.
going to see my kids again. And you know, I'm a faithful person. And I said, and this is a funny story because my pastor was I was at church when it happened, and my pastor was kind of stepping back to let the professionals do their job, you know. And I said something, and it was, you know, I have a booming Broadway voice, so he heard me, and I said, you know, Lord, I am secure in my salvation, but I don't want to die today. You know, and he says, that was my cue to come out. So he came out and said a little prayer with me and made me feel better and calm me down a little bit, you know, because
Right.
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But it is, but you're never too old to make changes is really kind of why I
Yes.
tell this story.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people would think, oh, I'm 66 years old, so what can I do? It's
Yeah.
already set and cast.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm living proof
Yep.
in the last 5 years that you can make those changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can get on the right track. And I look at these two incidences as just being kind of like, you know, standalone acute instances, that it doesn't have to be my life.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be my life.
Yeah.
So,
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
That the sooner you start, the better.
Right.
Like
right.
today is a good day.
Today is a good day.
Right now,
Today is the
everybody.
first
But it's
day.
Right
never,
now.
but it's never too late.
No.
And
Right.
your body, your physiology still adapts at age 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite analogies or metaphors is to help people understand that when you look in the mirror and you see that person, that's 90% of those cells were not there last year.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like that's the
You're
sort
recreating yourself
of, that's
every
the sort of
day.
turnover. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the key word. You're not the way that you are. You are the way that you are recreating yourself every moment.
Every moment. Every
through-
choice.
Through your lifestyle choices and more than you believe through your thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh.
I that's one of the things that I'm working with my adult children. Even my sibling, I had a conversation today because the negative things that come out of her mouth about her life, but yet trying to say she's just accepting, it's just how it is. And I'm like, is that really the truth though? Is that the world you want to create? Because people give away their authority and their power all the time by being acted upon by outside forces. Yeah. When truly, this is my belief system that we do have, first of all, a higher source, but we also have the ability to co-create and to recreate. Yeah. And it's those little things. It's like the pause between the heartbeats and the inhale and exhale. It's those little moments that you make decisions.
And I think you tell me if this is on the right track. I think sometimes verbalizing it though is better than just thinking about it and letting it go in a string in your head. I think you need to have a safe person to talk to it, talk about with it. But what do you think about that?
I think if it helps bring clarity,
yes.
then yes, absolutely. But the question is where is your mindset?
Yes.
Right.
Where are you going with this?
Right.
And one thing that I tell people a lot is that one of the most important things that you can do is to pay attention to how you feel. Like notice.
That's true.
As you're driving, as you're doing different things, how am I feeling right now? Because with the fight flight thing, your body is listening to you. Every cell is listening to your internal conversation. And what is that conversation saying? Is that a place where you allow the cells to heal, or is that a place where you're driving your cells into a war zone?
Yeah.
So yes, talking about it is great, especially if you have someone who can kind of keep you within bounds.
Well, perhaps.
But what I got from what you were saying is what a lot of people do when they think that they're just saying the way it is.
This is the way it is. Yeah.
They're giving up.
Yeah, they're giving up. They're speaking that misery into more existence. They're recreating that misery.
Yes.
But also from the physiology perspective, they're telling their body this is how it is.
Yeah.
And the cells are listening, and the cells go, well, we're not going to heal in this sort of environment. Right. We're going to hunker down.
Keep protecting ourselves.
And protect ourselves and save resources. We're not going to waste time on healing. We're going to prepare for the next battle.
Right. Well, that's the scary part of body, mind, and soul, right? That when you have, there's pillars, there's often three, major pillars, and there's no coincidence there. But I feel like the body is such a smart, divine design that if given the right atmosphere on many levels, whether it's the food, refraining from the sugar, alcohol is very damaging, and I'm the first one to know all of the information behind it because I deep dive into those things. But do I have a glass of wine every now and then? Absolutely, I'll still have a glass of wine.
I think it's okay to do that, though. I mean,
balance.
Every now and then. It's the problem. I remember someone telling me a long time ago when I was like going to Weight Watchers or something. She goes, I said, well, can't you have a piece of cake every now and then? And she goes, if you could have it every now and then, you wouldn't be here. Having it every now and then is okay. If it's, it's not your birthday every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, the question is, what's going to trigger you?
Yes.
And I think that we're totally fine to have a couple of drinks, probably less than 10 or 12 a week for a man, and a little bit less for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
But then the question with cake is, what does it trigger?
Yeah.
How does it change your behavior? And I talked about this on videos, and it's like fruit is this big thing. It's like,
Right.
Yes.
Eat it or don't eat it. That's
It's
kind of
a
a
healthy
quandary.
thing in general. But if you're a type 2 diabetic and you're trying to reverse it,
Right.
now it's kind of in the gray zone there.
Even insulin resistant, wouldn't
Yes.
you say? Because that's
Yes.
kind of me. I try to stay away from.
And I tell
sugar of
people
any
that,
kind.
yes, I think that you can have berries. They're very
Mhm.
low glycemic. They're
Mhm.
high fiber.
Mhm.
The best ones are raspberries and blackberries and so
Blue-
forth.
Blueberries.
But the question is, what does it do to your behavior?
Right.
And I've had lots of people comment on a video where I
Right.
talk about that.
Yeah.
I say, is this your entry-level drug?
Well, I
Right.
mean, you could ask the same question about alcohol. You know, I've
Yeah.
got a huge alcoholism pattern in my family. So I've always been a little cautious about alcohol in my life because it has been something genetically inherited through both sides of my family.
Yeah.
So it is. How does that affect your life?
Correct.
And I used to tease I'm one of 4 that didn't have any problem with alcohol as far as siblings go. My sister is 25, 26 years or more sober, so I'm very proud of her. But the thing I have had to say to my other sibling is, I think you might be allergic to it, right? Because the word alcoholism scares people.
Mhm.
And they don't want to say I'm an alcoholic or whatever, or, you know, even my stepson who's dealt with all kinds of stuff. But that question of how's it affecting your life?
Yeah.
That is a great question to say to somebody.
And when I said that in a video, I got one comment that said, it's like, they kind of laughed about it.
Right.
It's like, LOL, that's the first time I heard fruit mentioned as an entry-level drug.
No, but
But
yeah.
then there were all these follow-up comments. It's like, oh my God, you're so spot on. That's exactly how it is with me.
Yeah.
If I have even a smidgen of something, I'm
It
off
opens the gates,
Yes.
off
Yeah.
and running.
Yeah.
Onto the
Yeah.
pudding and then onto the
Yeah.
the cake
Yeah.
and
that's the thing. So many people, they say, oh, don't be silly. This is not how it works. Here's what I did. And they think just because that's how it worked for them,
That person.
that's how everyone
Yeah.
else should be. But we're so different.
yes.
And there's so
that's
many
true.
nuances and so many different levels to our tendencies
Right.
of insulin resistance or alcoholism or whatever. So
But even the personality interacts with that too.
Yeah.
You know, somebody with the
Yeah.
same, you know, if you looked at their labs, 2 people could have the same exact labs, the same exact
Yeah.
kind of family history, but behave completely differently.
Yeah.
So you
So-
obviously heart disease is the number one killer of people, but you mentioned diabetes a lot in this discussion.
yeah.
And, you know, my husband, as I mentioned before, is a primary care physician. He's a general internist. And, you know, the joke is, you know, if anybody ever actually followed his advice, he'd have nobody, you know, to see because,
yeah.
you know, chronic disease is kind of what internists do. But diabetes is one of those things that I think people thought was kind of innocuous, you know, 30 years ago. Oh, well,
Yeah.
I've got diabetes, you know, I'll take insulin or whatever a day and it'll be fine. But now what I've learned, and, you know, it's tied to so many things. So
Yeah.
do you think that that's like, if obviously there's more than one problem, but if you could say we could get under control one thing, is it keeping people from converting to being diabetic? Would that be the single thing that would make people better off, or is there not one thing? Is that a crazy question?
No,
Sorry.
not at all. Not at all. It's a perfect question. Diabetes is just a label.
Yes.
It's not a disease. It's a state of adaptation.
Okay.
You push your body with a lifestyle, whether it's carbs or stress or seed oils or whatever, that drives insulin up, and combined with genetic predisposition. But you're driving insulin up till you become insulin resistant to the point where you can't control your glucose, and now you're type 2 diabetic.
Right.
So it's a label, it's a state of adaptation. But the problem is insulin resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing that we need to start looking for and understanding. So we have about
And it's hidden right now.
85%
A lot of people have it.
of the U.S.
Don't know.
population has some degree of insulin resistance.
Exactly.
And in the world,
Yeah.
globally, like we have 8 million people, about
Billion. Yeah.
6 billion of those are insulin resistant today.
Yes.
So in a generation, we're going to see this balloon
Expand.
out and go
Yes.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And the problem is that diabetes is sort of defined as a inability to control blood glucose. So that's what they measure. Like that's the standard test, is blood glucose and A1C, which is a 3-month
Right.
average. But that's not the variable to measure because it's a controlled variable.
Exactly. It's not-
So going from insulin sensitive, which means that your blood glucose is, let's say, 85 and your insulin is about 3,
right.
that glucose over the next 20 years is not going to change because your body is going to fight. It's going to do everything it can to keep
Keep
that
it
blood
down.
glucose under 100. And it's not going to go over 100 until the system completely fails. And that takes about 20, 25, 30 years, different for different people.
It's amazing
But-
to watch it.
If
Mm-hmm.
they had measured insulin, fasting insulin,
Mm-hmm.
which you can't beg most doctors to test it.
I've tried.
You're going to
I've
see over those
yeah.
20 years, you're going to see insulin go up almost linear. And if you had tested it, you would have seen it 20 years earlier.
Right.
Right.
And that insulin, so there's 2 problems. The high glucose causes swelling and microvessel damage and blindness and kidney failure
Right.
and amputations.
All good. No,
Right.
right. No, I'm just kidding.
These are terrifying things.
Yeah.
But
that I'm doing.
insulin is what creates all the chronic degenerative diseases.
Yes.
Right.
Because insulin resistance causes a congestion and a clogging and a pollution of the cell. And
Right.
that causes heart disease, plaquing, high blood pressure, strokes, and dementia.
I'm down with all of
95% of all chronic
dementia,
disease is because of insulin resistance, which creates a state of low-grade chronic inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where diabetes
Yeah.
fits into that. It's just one expression of that insulin resistance.
Right. Right.
And
Well-
it's truly dangerous, though. It is a very dangerous thing, and they're not testing for the. And this is the end. They're not testing for fasting insulin levels
Yeah.
on a date, like on a regular lab for people. And it is legit one of the biggest health destroyers of
Yes.
So,
health. Yeah.
if people want to know more about what you do, because we just scratched the surface today, but if they want to know more and learn more, how can they do that?
Just go to YouTube and just type in Dr. Ekberg. It's
Okay.
EKBERG. Or
Great Swedish name.
Yes.
I know.
Or Google, you'll find it either way. I have over 700 videos,
Wow.
and the majority of those will address some aspect of this. I look at it from different angles. I talk
Right.
about brain health and exercise and food, but it all sort of hones in on this big insulin resistance problem.
Yeah. And I'm so glad to hear that because, I've just become aware of these things, working with a functional medicine doctor who was willing to kind of go into that range of
Yeah.
things, which is why I wore the CGM. Interestingly, I got one for my younger daughter who's in her 30s, the cancer survivor. Her body is working perfectly. She thought something was wrong with her because it wasn't doing what mine was doing. And I said, honey, no, you're
Yeah.
doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. It's staying right down there
Yeah.
in the 80,
Yeah.
and it'll go up a little bit when she eats, but
Yeah.
it was
But
beautiful.
I've heard that from so many people, even people who eat so well that their basic level is like 90.
Right.
They'll eat something and it goes up to 110. But then on a day when they're really stressed, it hits 140.
Oh, mine was insane. And I wasn't even eating poorly. It was just my body's we almost looked at it like it's lazy insulin. Like the pancreas would do its job eventually and it would dive it back down, but it would shoot up really high. So I'm thinking, this isn't right. I don't think this is right. I don't worry about too much. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's a lifestyle shift that has to happen,
Yeah.
and that's where we're kind of going.
And well, we thank Dr. Ekberg for being here today, and
Yes.
we look forward to having him on again and talking more about this. And we hope that you will like and subscribe and comment and tell us what you think about it. And we're just so appreciative you're here with us every week.
Yes, we are. And, Martha and I love what we're doing, having people as educationally focused as Dr. Ekberg and so positive in his delivery of information that can sometimes be scary. Martha and I are constantly here trying to find good information for you because she and I both believe, as well as Dr. Ekberg, that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.